All right, guys. Today I'm breaking down BREZ. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I was mispronouncing it. I was calling it BREZ, but I'm pretty sure it's BREZ. But anyway, this is a very sort of popular THC micro-infused adaptogen tonic, would be how I describe it. And I've actually bought the product. I have gone through the checkout, bought it, shipped it, have one cracked open right now, and I'm drinking it. And tonic is a very good word for this. It does sort of taste like a very more elevated, less sweet tonic water that is infused. This one in particular, I have the OG, has THC, CBD, and lion's mane. So I'm going to jump into this brand, and there's a couple of really cool things about this one. First off, BREZ has been on my list for a while to break down, but I recently listened to the My First Million podcast episode with Sean. This is a great podcast. I listen to this regularly, and Sean from Ridge Wallet was on it, and he mentioned this brand. They were talking about, hey, what's going on in e-commerce right now? What are the trends? What's emerging? And he was talking about how one of the trends is like agency owners or guys who used to work in an agency or still work in an agency transitioning into the D2C game because they have so much tactical skills that they're able to deploy that into a D2C brand. And that's very true of this brand. There's a lot of cool things going on. So the co-founders, one is Aaron, another one is Nick. They come from an agency background. Aaron, I think they're both partners in this, in a Lucid, which is sort of like I think it's a agency for, it's like advertising agency for the CBD THC space. And I think Nick is also involved in Structured, which is a pretty big sort of email marketing, retention marketing, and paid ads agency for the e-commerce space. And you can see that. You can see because they were they have such a strong tactical background as agency owners or working in agencies, they're able to deploy that into the D2C store, and you just see how really, really dialed in they are. Another interesting thing about it that Sean mentioned is that I think Aaron got ungated somehow with because this has CBD, and I'll talk about this throughout the video, because this has CBD and THC in it. There's a lot of compliance issues with that. And I think Aaron got ungated somehow, and being able to, he had some special relationship with Meta or something, and was one of the first people to be able to advertise in this space. So that's a competitive advantage they have too. Another really cool thing about BREZ is they're one of their co-founders, Aaron. He just he shares the numbers. He's very much building in public, which is awesome. So this has helped me. And I'll come back to this sort of stuff, and I'm just looking at the shares all the numbers. And this is great because you guys know, if you watch my breakdowns, we love to also break down publicly traded companies. Like we broke down Yeti Coolers, Elf Cosmetics, Black Rifle Coffee. And I mean, one of the reasons why we love that is because these companies have to have, they give out annual reports. They have to do quarterly earnings calls, and they just give you all the data. So it makes it a lot easier to sort of understand the business a little bit more. And they don't even give you details like this, what like Aaron is necessarily giving you, where it's like, hey, this is the amount of revenue we're making per channel digitally, and this is how much we're spending on ads. So this is great. This is going to help me. I'm going to keep referring back to this, some of these tweets to sort of show you what's going down as I work through this this breakdown. While we're at it, though, before I dive into all of this, so just so you know, what you're getting here is you're getting the funnel breakdown, you're getting the audit, which is I'll refer to this throughout the video, and which sort of goes through like just analytically what's going on and some of the tools they're using. The bonus, we also swiped all their emails. And I put that in a swipe file for you. I'll be talking about this later in the video, so you can watch that too, or you can access this too. Before I dive into the breakdown and the audit and stuff, people always ask me, hey, like, I love the breakdowns. Like, when's the next one? So if you want to stay tuned for that, just, you can, there's a couple different ways to do that. One would just be to connect with me on LinkedIn. Because normally I post them on LinkedIn. You can also subscribe to our newsletter. We normally send out an email every week, sometimes two, just going over brands that we've broken down and just sharing other tips. And some of you, a handful of you might be interested in having your own brand broken down or your own category audited or benchmarked, or maybe you need help with email marketing or something like that. You're always free to book a call with me too. And I can, me or someone on my team will sort of walk you through it if we think we can help you, or not, or maybe we'll refer you to somebody else. But for the handful of you watching this that maybe need some help, further help other than just some of the resources shared in this video, you can always book a call with me anytime. All right, let's dive into this. So let's just start at the audit, the top of the funnel here, with BREZ. So one very interesting thing here is these guys are driving a lot of traffic, more traffic than I thought. They're driving more traffic than Athletic Brewing. I think Athletic Brewing is driving about 500,000 uniques a month. Liquid Death is a little bit more. Liquid Death is more like 1.3, 1.5, 1.6. I forget off the top of my head. And those brands are worth, like, Liquid Death is valued at over, they're valued at over $1 billion. And I know, last time I did my Liquid Death breakdown, everyone was like, hey, like, Liquid Death's unprofitable. This is a stupid brand. I don't want to get into that. I just want to get in. I'm purely the numbers. Okay. They're driving millions of visitors a month. And they're valued at over $1 billion. BREZ is almost up there with them in traffic. Athletic Brewing, they're valued at over $500 million, I think was the last time I saw when they last raised money. And BREZ is driving double the amount of traffic. In Athletic Brewing, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's the biggest, the category leader in non-alcoholic beer right now. And this is very adjacent to that category. Like, those two brands that I mentioned do have a much more of a retail distribution. Like, you can walk into any Whole Foods in America, Target, and buy Liquid Death and Athletic Brewing now. So I think that's where they've probably got BREZ beat on the valuation. But my experience has always been that a lot of these D2C brands that are getting a lot of traffic and sort of awareness online eventually can translate over into brick and mortar. I've seen that happen a lot with some of the clients we've worked with. One example was we worked with Momofuku about 2 years ago, and we watched that business just change totally overnight, as they were a big D2C shop because their founder was on Netflix. And then now, you can walk into, I live here in Atlanta, Publix or Kroger or Whole Foods, and you can see a lot of their stuff. So I do think this is happening. The one thing could be the compliance issue. I don't know much about this, like the whole compliance and issues and hemp laws and stuff like that, that could block them. But my gut is like it's trending in the direction where this stuff is going to get, there's going to be less compliance here. So but yeah, I mean, that's just like off the rip. Like I was sort of, I was very impressed with the amount of traffic they're driving. Um, their tools. So, you know, I didn't dive deep into this, but they're a Shopify store using Shopify. They use Klaviyo for email. Um, they're collecting SMS. I don't think they're able to send SMS because of the compliance stuff that I was talking about. Again, I don't know that for a fact, but my experience has been when working with hemp brands or CBD brands. It's been a couple quarters since we've done it that we could not send SMS messages due to compliance issues. But I guarantee you, if there weren't any compliance issues, these guys would be sending them. I think they're using Okendo for reviews. And there's probably some other stuff they're using. But those are sort of the big ones I noticed. I'll talk about this as I go through the breakdown. Most of the traffic is actually coming to a collection page. It's this page, cannabis drinks. So my hunch is a lot of the ads are going to this. And then about 30% is going to the homepage. What's interesting about their paid stuff is they're getting they're getting some non-branded traffic. You know, like Kin Euphorics is another big sort of NA trending D2C brand. Non-alcoholic beer, they're ranking for that. Curious Elixirs. You know, when you go pull up these brands, like, you know, I mentioned Liquid Death, Athletic Brewing. These are two brands I broke down in the past year. You know, all their paid words are just their branded paid words. It's like Liquid Death or Liquid Death spelled wrong, or Athletic Brewing spelled wrong, or no space in between. So I would actually, if I was a brand owner, I would prefer it this way, where I'm getting branded keywords, but I'm also getting I'm getting discovery from just non-branded keywords. So I think this is very interesting too. I'll go through the ads, but you can see the Google ads, their Instagram ads, TikTok, stuff like that. Bottom of funnel, like moving into the on site and stuff, really tight, and really cool cart experience, checkout experience, very dialed in checkout. I'm going to show you that. They're doing one-click upsells, which I loved to see. Not many brands are doing this still. They have an abandoned checkout flow, which I'll break down. On the retention side, it's very dialed in as well. So they're doing newsletters. I have all their post-purchase flow, their shipping notification emails that I'll go through in a bit. 20 to 30 emails a month. So they're almost sending every day sometimes, and with their newsletters. And I'm going to get into sort of why I think they're able to do that. They're doing some cool stuff that I think a lot of brands should do. And when I benchmarked their campaigns, they're up there with the top guys. They're actually doing a better job of, in my opinion, of campaigns than Liquid Death. I benchmarked them against them, so I'll share that in a bit too. So, all right, let's start top of funnel here. Let's start with the traffic. So, you know, and again, coming back to Aaron's post, I'm going to use this to sort of paint the picture. Again, I don't have all the details. I don't know anybody at BREZ. I've never seen their data. I don't have access to this. So some of this will be assumptive. Okay. So, apologies ahead of time if I'm a bit off on it, but, it looks like most of the revenue for the business is coming through the Shopify store. I couldn't get the math totally to work, but, cause there's like 4.3 Shopify, but total net revenue is 4.5. But then again, they're doing 600 in retail. So I don't know if like retail revenue goes through Shopify. I know some people are doing that now, like having a wholesale side of their business. But most of it is coming through that Shopify store on the D2C side. And it is, again, landing on that collection page. Where they're getting their traffic. So most of it's coming from the US. Most of it is attributed as direct or organic. But after looking at Aaron's post, I think a lot of it is actually paid, but it's just coming in as direct and organic. And when you look at it, they're spending about $2 million a month it looks like in ads, roughly, to generate that 4.3 million in revenue. And the top channels are Meta, Meta, Google, and AppLovin. I'll talk about that in a sec. And then there's TikTok. They have an Amazon store that I'll talk about in a bit. But when you look at that traffic, so we'll start at the top. Facebook, I have their ads pulled up here. And again, you can access it here in the link. Some things really stand out. And again, I don't know if this is top of funnel, middle of funnel. These are retargeting ads. My guess is a lot of this is top of funnel. But a lot of like unboxing, customer reviews, stuff like that. One thing that I think they do that's really cool is whenever they get press, they'll turn that into an email or they'll turn that into an ad. Again, that's a very advanced tactic, very dialed in. Not a lot of brands are doing that. It was really cool to see that. So I saw that they were recently featured on Vice and put that up as an ad. They might do that middle of funnel, like it's a retargeting ad or something like that. I think that's a really cool way to use social proof. Another thing that's really interesting about their Facebook ads is they're spinning up new creative pretty regularly. Like their longest running ad they have is from March 21st. So yeah, like you can tell it's a pretty dialed in media buying team. On the Google side, these are like sort of dynamic shopping ads. Like if I search, BREZ, or I search some of those keywords I talked about earlier. This is what will show up. And I think these are like in-network, audience network ads. But anyway, I linked to all this so you can look at their ads. Not doing any YouTube videos, I don't think. And I'm not sure if that's due to compliance, but you can see all the formats on their Google. I think that is their third largest channel, but the second largest channel is AppLovin. And so AppLovin, if you don't know what this is, so AppLovin is a very hot publicly traded stock right now. It basically is a platform that allows you to deploy ads on games, like mobile games and stuff like that. And I think one of their founders, I think it was Nick, I was listening to a podcast from him where he was talking about how he didn't even really know about AppLovin, and somebody like cold DM'd him. Like this is like recently, like within the past year. And they've already ramped this up to, I think this is spend right here, to over $472,000 in ad spend a month. And again, like when you see this, if you're totally new to this, like when they're spending $472,000 a month in ads, this means they're probably driving $1 million, maybe even more, 1.5 million from those ads alone. So it's a profit. There's a KPI like return on ad spend. It would be interesting to see like which one has the highest return on ad spend. But yeah, so this is one of their channels. And unfortunately, I can't find a way. There's no like transparency center like with Google or Facebook, like an ads library for AppLovin. Maybe I'm wrong. I tried searching for this because this is really a hot trend, and like these guys are on the cutting edge. But I think more and more e-commerce brands are going to be using this as an ad platform. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. They're spending more money on AppLovin than they are on Google, which is wild. So it's clearly driving results for them. But that's a little bit about the traffic. And again, I think some of this traffic, maybe on the AppLovin or the Google side, is coming in as direct or probably more direct, or maybe it's coming in as social and it's not coming in as paid. I think they're actually spending a lot more. It's more than just 4.81% paid. All right, so that's the traffic. They do some social stuff, Facebook, Twitter. Like I said, Twitter and LinkedIn, their founders are active there. They're co-founders. So I bet there's some decent organic traffic coming in there. But that's a little bit about the traffic. Before I jump into the D2C store, because that's where a lot of the revenue is coming in, I'll talk about their, they have a couple different channels. So they have an Amazon business, which you can buy their products on Amazon. I think though what's going on is they can only sell the lion's mane here. So the lion's mane I think is non-CBD, non-THC. So they can really only sell this one drink here, again, due to the compliance issues. But if you go to Aaron's post, like they're driving $342,000 alone in revenue just off this one listing. And this is accurate because I went and did like the bestseller rank. There's a hack with Amazon where you can sort of figure out what I mean, you can use tools like Jungle Scout and stuff like that, but one way is just what's your bestseller ranking in your category. And yeah, they're doing basically this listing alone is driving $300,000 a month. And this is not even their winner. Their winner is the drink that I'm drinking, the OG. So, I mean, my hunch is that OG product probably sells 10 times the amount on the D2C store than this this one, like this lemon elderflower drink. And so, I mean, just think about like if they were to get ungated there or whatever you call it, and they were able to sell that drink on Amazon, this would be in the millions, in my opinion. So we'll see if that happens. We'll see if hemp laws change, but yeah, pretty dialed in Amazon. And then they are also doing a fair amount of retail revenue. So I put that down here too. You can go buy it in store. So I'm based in Atlanta. So, and again, their retail distribution this is another thing that they could really, really blow up. I mean, when you go do this, when you pull this up on, you pull Liquid Death up or Athletic Brewing, again, like I said earlier, I can go to Target, I can go to Whole Foods and buy all of this. And so I think if these guys, like, the tip of the iceberg, if the compliance laws change or the hemp laws change and they're able to sell on Amazon, they're able to sell in retail, or they just keep ramping up D2C. I mean, all of that's going to happen. And I think this is, this is why I am very bullish on this, their valuation being eventually getting really, really high. TikTok Shop, I thought they would be doing more, but not a lot of revenue going on there. And then another thing they do is GoPuff. And so this is like, if you go there to the homepage, you have to verify your age. So first off, if you don't verify, you just can't keep shopping. But then eventually there is a sort of a put in your address, because we deliver instantly, or we deliver in as fast as 30 minutes. And like, I guess it goes to this instant delivery page. And when I first saw this, I was like, oh my God, this is genius. This is amazing. Like, I can't wait to see this. This is really cool. Like, nobody else is really doing this. I bet this is driving crazy revenue for them, because they're just removing the friction of getting the product in your hands, but I could be wrong here, but I don't think it's driving a lot of. I think GoPuff is sort of like a Uber Eats kind of. I think this is their partner they're using to do local deliveries in, and it's only $27,000 in revenue. That's still a fair amount of revenue, but compared to like what they're doing, like on Meta and AppLovin, was a little bit surprised. But I think that they are, ramping up a little bit. They have a DoorDash partnership, so we'll see. This is something to monitor. I think, again, maybe a year or two from now, this is actually really driving a lot of sales. And I could be wrong. Again, I could be wrong that this is actually driving a lot of sales and is actually attributed as Shopify revenue. But I'm just assuming this GoPuff, that's mostly the revenue from the instant delivery collection. All right. So with that said, let's dive into the main winner here, their D2C store here. So again, I mentioned that I think most of them are coming to that collection page, but there's a lot of people going to the home page. And then they got to verify you by age. There's the local delivery sort of flow. And then eventually you get into the product page. The product page is really dialed in. Again, they kind of put a lot of their products here on the actual page. And let me see if I can pull it up in the browser. So that's that age verification. But when you come in, you land in subscribe and save. So they're definitely trying to push you, maybe not push is the right word, but they're definitely trying to get you into a subscription. You can kind of play around with the dosages here. And it's almost like it's one page, but it's changing products, which is really cool. You'll see like the URL is changing. Like right now I'm on the Lion's Mane, then I'm on the OG. So that's really interesting. It's almost like a dynamic, I don't know if dynamic is the right word, but they're having you go to different product pages on like a single product page, as well as the subscribe and save, the one-time purchase. So it's a little bit, that's some pretty custom work if I had to guess. But anyway, so let's just click on the OG. When I click the card, it's the same, I think, for regardless of if I'm doing one-time purchase or subscribe and save. Sometimes people will do like upsells here, or they'll try to get you on a subscription. It's a pretty standard slide out cart. There's not a lot going on. Before I get deeper into the checkout experience and stuff like that, let's talk about what else is going on pre-purchase. So I have their pre-purchase flow sort of outlined here. And so you can look into this. But yeah, I mean, it's a very good. And again, when it comes to the flows, like, again, sometimes I'm a little bit more assumptive here because I'm not totally sure if this is exactly the emails. This is what I got and what I'm making an assumption their pre-purchase flow is. And these guys are really dialed in. So there's a lot going on here than the average brand. So there could be some wrong takes here, but I think this is email one. And again, so if you go to get into the pre-purchase flow, this pop-up will appear, or it's this claim $5. So this is what you go through that. This is what I've outlined. Again, they're not collecting SMS because I think of the compliance issues. What's really cool here is you can copy the code or press apply off, and it assigns the coupon code to your sort of journey so that it appears in the checkout. This is again an advanced tactic. Highly recommend it. Again, it's like a little Easter eggs like this where you kind of see just how dialed in these guys are. But I think this is email one. It's getting the $5 credit. They're leading with the OG. They move on to cross-selling here. There's some social proof, really elevated template. And then I think this is email two. Again, it's more of like a category cross-sell email, educational email, educating you about the ingredients. Like I said at the top of it's a THC, CBD, Lion's Mane, cross-selling all the products, reminding you of the special offer. Some more sort of, this is like what I would call like a social proof email, testimonial email, whatever you want to call it. Again, like these these pre-purchase flows, they're just basically going through different angles. I've heard even some people say it's like, we're like, what are the objections? Okay. Like, well, or like, what do we need to do to build trust? So here it's like, or what do we need to do to convert? So here it's like a reminding of the credit. So sometimes I bet this email does really well. Most of the time, email one on these pre-purchase flows do very well. This one, again, is that more educational. And then there's the social proof. So it's like all these different angles to build trust. And then this is scarcity. So there's this dynamic clock out timer. Unfortunately, it expired when I got it, or by the time I was able to access it, reminding you of the code. So that's another email. And there could be more, but at the time of this recording, I think I've only gotten 4. So that's their pre-purchase flow, their welcome flow, new subscriber flow, whatever you want to call it. I think they're doing browse abandonment flows. I couldn't get it to trigger, but my hunch is they probably are. So if you don't know what a browse abandonment flow is, it's like when you're already subscribed to the brand, they already have to have your email address. Or sometimes, there's these apps like retention.com or Black Crow is another one where they've already got your email address. So they could be doing that too. But if you look at the product, but you don't go into the cart, checkout, order, it's like a browse abandonment. This is a flow that I recommend every store have. It's normally one of the top 5 performing flows. So they got the browse abandonment flow. Then I think this is a cart abandonment flow. I think this is what this is. And this is, again, super dialed in. They're sending text-based emails, all right, which I highly recommend every brand do for a variety of reasons. But, this is a more letter-style email. And, again, a lot of brands are like, we don't want to do this. This is off-brand. Well, I just broke down Lemmy, Kourtney Kardashian's brand, 2 weeks ago. They're even sending the text-based emails, and this is somebody that is a very aspirational brand that everyone wants to be like one of the Kardashian brands. Not only does the reasons why this works so well. First off, it looks like an individual email. It looks like they're like writing to you, so it gets a better response rate sometimes. Secondly, these text-based emails sometimes land in the inbox better. They render better. There's not as much design, so they don't end up in spam or junk or promotions. And then third, and this is probably, in my opinion, one of the main reasons why brands should do text-based emails is because they're easy to build. They're easy to deploy. You don't need a designer to build this out, or you don't really need to code it. Like most people can, if you can write an email, you can build a text-based campaign or flow. Because these emails, they look great, definitely, but the workflow to get that deployed is sometimes very, not long, but you just can't design this in a day a lot of times. Sometimes it takes a week. For brands that move slower, where it's more political, there's more bureaucracy, you maybe have an agency involved. Sometimes I've seen brands take like a month just to get like a flow like this built out. So anyway, that's why I recommend the text-based emails. And I think this is a cart abandonment email that you get. So basically what happened is you go into the cart. So there's the browse abandonment, but let's say you already have my email. There's the cart abandonment too. And I think that's what's going on. And the reason they can do that, you might ask, why would I do a cart abandonment when I'm already sending the browse abandonment? It's just a little bit more intention, it's a little bit deeper. Sometimes you can do discounting if you want, but you don't want to do discounting on the browse abandonment. It's like leading them to the checkout. The checkout, typically, a lot of these stores, if you can get them in the checkout, the conversion rate is much higher. So I think that's why they're doing it. I could be wrong, but that is a cart abandonment email. So let's go into the checkout. Then I'll get into the actual abandoned checkout flow because, again, there's some really cool stuff going on. So add to cart, go into the checkout, and basically it's like a one-page checkout, which is really, really cool. So I bet, these guys are super dialed in on conversion. So I bet they've tested this and they probably realized that one-page checkout works better for them. So what I mean by that is you can fill out all your information, press pay now, and you move on out of the checkout to the next step. They're also doing some cross-selling here, and I kind of played around with it. I bought the product, but I only bought the one-off. I didn't do a subscription, but I kind of went into the checkout and played around with it. Like if I were going to buy a subscription, it's very similar. But again, you see a lot of this, like you're $60 away from free shipping, add this. What's interesting is they're doing this in the checkout and not the cart. I see a lot of brands do this in the cart. So again, my hunch is they've split tested the hell out of this, and it's performing better in the checkout. Social proof here on the side, love this. So yeah, really, really tight, really dialed in checkout experience. Now, if you were to abandon the checkout, so let's say you left your email, because this happens a lot. I think something like, let's say I drive 1,000 people into the checkout. I think that the statistics are like 500 of them will just not actually order. And some of them will leave their email, and you can send abandoned checkout emails to them. And this, again, is another flow that's very, very profitable for a lot of brands. I've broken it down here. So advanced stuff going on here. So first off, I don't know if this is intentional, but I think what's happening is when I signed up for the abandoned checkout flow, you don't really sign up for it. I basically tried to make it look like I was abandoning the checkout. I also got the pre-purchase flow. I also lined up for that. And I think what's happening is because when you click email me with news and offers, it's subscribing me to a list in Klaviyo, and the pre-purchase flow is also triggered. The pre-purchase flow is triggered off that list. So the same list that's used to collect the pop-up, is being used in the checkout too. So I think that's what's going on, but I'm not totally sure. But I'm not going to go through the pre-purchase flow again. I'm going to go into the abandoned checkout flow. And this is where it gets, again, another one of these little Easter eggs where it's like, okay, these guys know what they're doing. They are sending product-based abandoned checkout flows. So what I mean by that is they have people come in, they abandon the checkout, and then they're seeing which SKU they abandon or which product title, and they're sending them down different paths. And so I abandoned on the lemon elder, and so I'm getting. And the reason why you would do this, again, I think this could be dynamic, but the reason I think that they're doing this again, it could be dynamic, but I think that it's split off a product SKU. That's just been my experience. But why you would want to do that is because you can get very, very specific in the emails themselves. You can actually talk about the lemon elder flower, that particular product, the features, the benefits. You can do social proof. You can do scarcity. And then you can also cross-sell other products that are unrelated to that. So yeah, I mean, this is sort of the lemon elder, I guess, branch of the abandoned checkout flow. Again, very like strategic in what they're doing. It's, hey, lemon elder's on your mind. They're just showing the product. They do a cross sell here. They then do a social proof email. So they're showing reviews. So I think there could be more, but those are the two abandoned checkout flows that I got. And again, I think they're split off the products. Could be wrong, but that was at least what I observed. Now let's move into one of the coolest things I think they're doing is they're doing post-purchase upsells. So what happens here is a lot of times for most brands, you go into the checkout, you press pay now, and then you go to the thank you page where it's like, hey, this is your order. This is the address we're shipping to, and there's some other stuff. And some brands might do. But what they're doing is these things called one-click or post-purchase upsells, where between the checkout and the thank you page, they upsell you and be like, hey, it's very similar to like going to McDonald's and being like, hey, do you want to upgrade to a supersize? I mean, that's like the most famous upsell of all time. But normally yeah, like you'll see a lot of these brands, they'll upsell the product they bought. It could be like upsell into a subscription. It could be upsell into just buying more. So this is what they're doing. I bought the lemon elder, and then they give me an upsell to buy more lemon elder flower for at an even cheaper price. And there's a lot of scarcity. It's like you can get 18% off. It's only available for 5 minutes. And you, here's the common thing I hear from consumers. They're like, I hate this. I hate these upsells, blah, 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 blah. But then as a brand, you go and look at the conversion rates on this stuff. I mean, I've seen this stuff convert at 30%. Literally, for every 100 orders that a brand would get, 30 people would take the upsell. And so what that basically does is that adds an extra $32 to the order. So it's sent the price from, or my checkout price was, I think $72. It would have sent it. I didn't take the upsell, but if I did, it would have sent it over to $100. And that again has a dramatic impact on the average order value, which basically means the more revenue you earn. It's just a very good way to grow an e-commerce store. You can get more customers, you can increase the transaction size of those customers, or you can increase the lifetime value of those customers. It's sort of an old famous J. Abraham, if you're familiar with that, who that is, talks about this. Really only 3 ways to grow a business. So this is one of those levers, is like increasing the transaction size of the business, of the transaction, increasing the revenue size of the transaction. This is where it got really, really interesting, because you can also do what's called a downsell, where it's like, okay, if I buy the lemon, if I get the lemon elderflower and I say, no, I don't want this, they can give you another offer. And this is where I found it to be like wild, because they're downselling me this spirit, which is like $351. So my experience has been working with brands on the upsells and the downsells, that normally you want to downsell something cheaper than the upsell. Like a lot of times why people might not take the upsell is because it's too expensive. So you're like, okay, we upsell them for $30. They don't want that. Let's downsell them to something that's $15. Something like well below our average order value. But with these guys, they are upselling, or they're downselling this spirit bottle. I'd be really interested to know the conversion rate on that, because if someone took this, the transaction just went from $372 or $72 to what, $450. So yeah, that's what's going on there with the upsells, the downsells. I love seeing this. Not a lot of brands do this. Moving into the thank you page. So one thing they do here, it's another sort of tell that these guys are really dialed in, is they're collecting some zero-party data in the thank you, on the thank you page. A lot of brands are doing this now, but I highly recommend this. So what they're doing is they have these questions like, what brought you to the site today? What almost stopped you from buying? How long did you know about us before making your first purchase? Who are you purchasing for? Is it yourself, or are you doing it for a gift for someone? And so basically what that does is so my hunch is that the founders of the marketing team is like looking at this regularly, and they use this to either make adjustments to their marketing. So if they see more and more people saying I received it through email, or the reason I bought is through email, like they're like, okay, well, we need to put more energy in email. What almost stopped you from buying? There might be using that. There, people that do their conversion rate optimization might be doing that. They'd be like, oh, like this button or this page almost stopped me from buying. That's a very interesting question. I don't see a lot of people asking that. You will normally see this always as like question one. This is another really good question too. How long did you know about us before making your first purchase? So my hunch is that their ad team is looking at this and being like, okay, like we know that now that like we have some data that says that, if they're going to buy from us, they're going to buy from us within a week. So let's really ramp up spend on people within that sort of 1 to 7 day conversion window. Again, assumptive, but That's sort of what I think. And then who did you purchase for, myself or a gift? Like if it's a gift, if they start seeing this tick more, they're like, okay, well, maybe we need to be doing more gifting in our gifting ads, or maybe we need to be put more stuff about buying this for gifts on our site, or maybe we need to do more gifting emails. That would be my hunch, is probably what they're doing there. Transactional emails. So I highlighted that too. So these are like the emails that Shopify sends out right after you order. So this is I think it's called the order notification email. And again, it shows you how they've thought about everything here. You'll see it if you go look at Liquid Death's transactional emails, they're just using the standard Shopify notification emails. These guys have gone in and edited it, stylized it. It might even be deployed from Klaviyo, because you can do that now too. But that's that. This is the standard Shopify tracking email. So when you get the order, when it ships, it sends you that. This is sort of on the move. Your order is here. So this was like a delivery notification. So those are the transactional emails. Moving into the post-purchase. So this is like, I don't have the when it was triggered, but this is like, within the first 48 hours, you get an email from Aaron. So letter from the CEO. These work really, really well. It's text-based. Again, text-based. Why? I bet the open rate is extremely high on this, just because it's your first email. It's the first post-purchase email. It's text-based. It's going to hit the inbox more. It's from the CEO. So I bet this is a very effective email. It gets them to open the email, so they're more likely the next email, which is a little bit more stylized, it's more likely to land in the inbox. So this is sort of staff sips. It's sort of like, the idea here is like you're sort of building anticipation before you get the product. So it's giving you sort of like some ideas on what drink to make with this. So that's pretty interesting. This is a review email, and I think this is triggered from Okendo. Yeah, so this is their review app. So it might not be all in the same post-purchase flow. I'm just showing you the emails, which I'm pretty positive are either in a post-purchase flow or triggered from post-purchase from an app. And so yeah, this is sort of the review email. Leave us a review. They do a follow-up one too. Again, like a lot of brands would do this review email, but they won't send a follow-up with a special offer. So really cool to see that. That's what's going on there. And again, why you would do that? Because you get more adoption. You get more converts on leaving reviews. And especially if you have a good product, that's going to increase the social proof, which will show up on the landing page, which could increase the conversion rate. So that's why you would do that. If you're sort of wondering why, you would incentivize someone to leave a review. All right, moving into the unboxing. I wish I could put the video in here. I filmed a video, but yeah, I mean, it's, it wasn't a branded box. It comes in sort of like a 6-pack. And I have one of them right here that I'm drinking. Moving on to the newsletter. So let's talk about the newsletter strategy. Because this is what happened. This is part of the retention, is sending out the newsletters. So I have that swipe file pulled up here, which you can go through. We have everything pulled from, from October of last year. So you can see all of their emails. And I'll go through it. Give me 1 second. So as some of you guys know, we benchmark brands sometimes on their email marketing. We go through all their campaigns and be like, hey, this is who's the leader in your category. Luckily, I was able to sort of benchmark the functional beverage category last week. So I have this pulled up. I have some comps here. And so we benchmarked brands like LaCroix, Hintwater, Poppi, Olipop, Health Aid, Recess, and sort of rank them. And if I were to, added a BREZ into this at the time, they would be ranked at the very top, probably with recess. They do. It's super dialed in. So I just want to hit that up, mention that at the top before I dive into what they're doing on the email marketing. They're doing a very good job. They're, like I said at the beginning, I think their email marketing is better than Liquid Death. It's better than Olipop. It's better than Poppi, who just sold to Pepsi for $1.6 billion, I think. And it's right up there with Recess, who, if you're like really into the D2C space, you're really into email marketing. A lot of people are like, oh, Recess has some of the best email marketing. So these guys are really, really good on the campaign side. So let's drive through. Let's walk through like what's going on here. So in October, this would be like it's Prime Day. So this is like a retail ship partnership day. Again, you'll see a lot of text-based emails in their campaign strategy. They'll do like something like, we'll send in October, let's say on the 8th, we'll send a Prime Day email, but then on the 9th, we'll send a text-based email. So it's like they're switching it up, they're mixing and matching, and love to see that. They'll do your standard promotional emails where it's like, hey, claim to get $5 credit. This is like a letter from the CEO or a staff sort of email, if you want to call it that. So it's Nick, who's one of the co-founders or the partners at BREZ. Like it's like a life update. So they're doing that. This is more of like a quiz survey stuff. This is a social proof email where it's like, and again, I don't have the segmentation in front of me. I don't know like who they're actually targeting for this stuff, but I could give more insights if I had that. So I'm just going off of the actual emails, but this could be sent to people who are maybe still on the fence. Or people that are engaged, maybe even like 120-day engaged, 90-day engaged, but maybe haven't ordered. So you could exclude customers from stuff like this, or you could exclude people who've already bought the OG. So that's sort of what I see some clients do. This is more of like a content-based email where, it's like a new recipe or something like that. So they do a lot of that. You'll see there. And again, they have a clear strategy. They're like, they have a clear calendar where they've mapped it all out. And they're like, we're going to do, Prime Day is this day. We're going to make sure we do a couple recipe emails a month. We're going to make sure we do a couple of text-based emails a month. Or maybe if we do a big promotion, we'll do a more like stylized D2C elevated email, and then we'll mix that with a text-based email the next day. Another thing they do too is they'll send, I don't know if they show up in the campaigns. I'm getting them. Maybe it's because I'm based in Georgia. They'll do these like sort of activist emails around hemp laws and raising awareness for that. So you'll see that sort of, and they'll do that like letter from the CEO or in a letter style type email. This was that I was talking about, that how they take press sometimes, and they turn that into an email. And it's literally the exact same template here. Like they literally are using the exact same template that they used on that review email. And it's just an image now of the screenshot of the press that they got. And this is mostly a text-based email. And again, this is super easy to build. You don't need like a designer to do this. Like like a customer service or a project manager, really anybody can build this. So it's not that hard. This stuff is a little more elevated, obviously, but they clearly have a design style. They clearly use that. It's like, hey, whenever we're going to do a mocktail or a recipe, we're going to use a similar design style. You can see it's just they're changing out the background. They're using this sort of like box, and it's going to be like, this is the title, this is what you'll need, and this is how to. And they're like, hey, we're going to feature like a couple mocktails a month, So, and that's just something they're sending out. This is getting into Black Friday. I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole nother strategy, but it's very similar. We'll just go down to like what they're doing in March, because this is relevant because I'm filming this in April. So again, this is another recipe email. It looks like they're using a different template maybe now. This is a St. Patrick's Day sort of angle. This is this mocktail madness. They're sort of leaning into the Final Four, NCAA Final Four. Again, more recipes. They're just doing this. This is like a stock up flow, a stock up email, subscribe and save email. Again, more text-based emails, letters from this is a letter from Corbin. This is like a scarcity product launch. I don't even know what you want to call it, because what they do with this spirit is they release it in batches, which I think is actually really, really cool. Because one, I guess from an operational side, they don't have to buy a lot of it. They can just be like, okay, well, let's just see how much is reserved. And then once we kind of know it, then we'll like actually move it into fulfillment or production. The business owner in me is thinking like that, but yeah, so that's pretty cool. And so I guess this is, sort of like product launch, scarcity type email. Again, more text-based emails, more recipes, more movie restock emails, subscribe and say moving into the March Madness. This is more like a community building, cross-selling email, stock up email, another recipe email. So, that's why I say when I benchmark them, they're really, really high. And there might be even stuff like, I would give them like you could count that one as like a back in stock email around the spirit. So, I mean, if you were to count that, these guys would be number one. The reason I didn't mark them as back in stock is because they don't run out of stock. Or at least from what I've noticed. So, but I mean, really dialed in promotional, FAQ emails, subscribe and save email, launching products. They're doing gift cards, replenishment, social proof, text-based emails, collabs even, gift guides, spotlighting the team, highlighting retail partners, charity. They even do, I was thinking about it, maybe I need to update this, because another thing they do is they sell like bundles too, which is really cool. Let's see if I can find one of those. They do this like, maybe is it here? No. If you go through the swipe file, you will see a couple of the angles or the themes is more around bundling. So that's like a whole nother thing they're doing. So yeah, super, super dialed in on the newsletters, but yeah. So hey, that's it. That's basically the breakdown of the brand. I think I went through everything here: TikTok, Amazon. Again, most of it's coming through the D2C side. It's very, very dialed in from the traffic side. It's very, very dialed in on the retention side. And the numbers back it up. Like I said, go look at Aaron's post. And this is why I think this brand is in a lot of ways undervalued. And like I said, especially if the compliance stuff, the hemp laws, this stuff loosens, like this is going to be a massive business on the size of Liquid Death, on the size of maybe not Liquid Death just because it's so viral, but it definitely, if they can get the distribution like Athletic Brewing or something like that, again, they're more dialed in than they are. And actually, if you go back and watch my Athletic Brewing breakdown last year, like that was a pretty dialed in business. We went through it all. Former hedge fund guy sort of started that with a former brewer. And it's like they're super tight too. A lot of this stuff is dialed in, but these guys are probably one of the more dialed in brands I've ever reviewed. There's a lot of advanced stuff going on. And I hope you guys get a lot from this. Again, if you have any questions on this, or you just want to talk about it with me, just DM me on LinkedIn. I'm monitoring it every day, and I'm happy to chat about it if you have any questions. But thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next breakdown.